Hey, what's going on, team? It's your boy Dice Brand here, and I want to welcome you to this video on why military members, especially engineers, struggle to find their purpose beyond the military. So funny enough, we've got some engineers doing some construction work next door, but hopefully the noise isn't super invasive and we can stick around for this video. So I'm talking about men that are appreciate numbers, facts, logic, and routines. Very nerdy men, very men that are use a lot of cognitive horsepower and are required to have excellent working memory. Men that are quote unquote stuck in their head, okay? So in this video, we're going to be talking about some of the ways that you tick and some of the ways that you think and some of the pitfalls that you might have when it comes to finding a purpose. So I'm speaking from personal experience here. I, like you, have the engineering nerd brain and was in the Australian Army as a fitter armament / watercraft maintainer for about 6 years. So I understand a lot of these struggles that you might be having. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in or you need some help with, I encourage you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because we're also going to be talking in future videos much more about military transitions. So with that being said, I do have some notes to keep us on track here, but yeah, let's get cracking into it, shall we? So, the first reason that you might be struggling to find your purpose as a military member or an engineer or someone with a very nerdy brain is you're stuck in your head, okay? You're stuck in your head. More often than not, you're probably stuck in this do mode, okay? So what do I mean by this do mode? Well, David Data said it best, okay? So check out this book by David Data, The Way of Superior Man. I highly recommend it if you're starting to go down this path of self-discovery and like a lot of more inner work. But I want to read out a couple of paragraphs that he talks about that says it quite well on what this do mode actually is. Sorry about the construction noise. So, you've probably noticed yourself in this do mode. You are totally focused and intent on getting the task done. You don't want to be disturbed. If anyone tries to interrupt you with a question, you ignore them or give them a quick answer so that you can keep on track. This do mode is very common amongst men. Whether you're trying to hear something on the TV or finish a report by midnight, your attention is focused on the task at hand and you don't want to be distracted. This do mode is one of men's biggest strengths and weaknesses. It is great to be able to plow through obstructions and get the job done, and it's good to keep yourself disciplined and on purpose. But if you forget the larger purpose while pursuing the small and endless tasks of daily life, then you've reduced yourself to a machine of picayune. So this weird word picayune basically just means like something trivial, okay? It's not, you don't not really need to know too much about the word meaning, but just get the essence of those couple of paragraphs. So what you're essentially doing is you're blocking out like unnecessary thoughts and conversation in order to focus on like the task you're doing. I'm sure that you can relate to this if you've made it this far in the video and you've got that engineering brain. Or you might do the opposite and you might tend to overthink and overanalyze to achieve the goal, but at the same time you're also missing the joy of the present moment. And like maybe you've heard of this saying, it's like stop and smell the roses. So that would apply here. It's like, you know, on one hand you've got people that are like more like me and more like you, which are very like constantly thinking, constantly analyzing, like constantly doing, constantly looking, how does this work? How does that work? Oh yeah, thread pitch. Okay, cool. Stainless steel. Okay, what sort of finish is that? What RA finish is that? Okay, cool. Think. Focus. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you got these fucking floaties, we call them fairies, that are like, yeah man, let's just smoke some weed, everything's good. Let's play with tarot cards and rocks, and it's okay to have $32 in my bank account. It's all good, man. So, you know, they seem to be very happy and you seem to be you're making a lot more money than them and you're nerding out over this stuff that is actually going to benefit the world, but you're not happy. So ideally, you're trying to find a good combination of both, but not to the point of where you're delusional like this guy. Moving on. So you may have also had some thoughts of like, where's the failure point? How could this be improved? How much time do we have on this project left? Plan, then execute, constantly thinking, constantly calculating, constantly analyzing, using your prefrontal cortex, your brain. Like even you touch my brain right now, it's like your brain is on fire, okay? You've probably got incredible focus and persistence, okay? And these qualities are both your gift and your drawback. Like you're stuck in the routine. You probably thrive on routine and like may find yourself unknowingly like stuck in a rut. Stuck in the routine of doing your job and sort of like getting on in like an autopilot, like just going about your life doing stuff day by day. And because you're stuck in this do mode, you may have also failed to see like the larger picture, the overarching reason of why you're doing all this. And you might focus too much on the goal at hand or the job to the point where you have forgotten why you wanted it in the first place. So I've got this line here that might make a bit more sense, is thus your initial idea of what you thought your purpose was in the early stages is no longer what it is compared to right now. And at the same time, you're completely unaware of the whole thing. So let's put this into some context, okay? So maybe you were like me when you first joined the military as an engineer, or some sort of like, you know, job that is required like a high IQ, a high working memory, a high cognitive horsepower. And you're like, I like fixing things. I like pulling stuff apart. I've liked Lego for a long period of time. I like building. I like construction. I like problem solving. And I'll be really excited to join the military or similar profession that requires those cognitive skills. So you get really excited. You're like, bam, we're going to go do this. So you go through your military training and you go onto your specialist courses and your OJT, or you go do your engineering degree. And what happened? What happened very quickly? It started to become very nerdy and very, very mind intensive, to the point where you start losing hair because your prefrontal cortex is on fire. All right. And so you became a machine that is emotionally and monetarily rewarded for these behaviors, okay? And it's good that like on some part you're actually making money on autopilot, and that's cool. But at some point in your career, like you may have realized that you've been a little bit crushed, and you have the realization that there's actually something missing in your life. So here are some big questions if you're having this sort of you're picking up what I'm putting down. Lock into this. Do I hate my job, or is it just the unit that I'm in? Do I need to stick at this, or have I learnt things since I've started this and that have now changed my purpose, and that's why I feel dissatisfied? Have I failed to question even if I like this anymore? And if I ask though, if I'm fearful of asking that question, is it because like I'm scared of it and I don't really want to go down that path because I'm afraid of what I might see, I should say. I'm afraid of what I might see if I start to ask these questions. So now that I'm starting to bring your awareness to this, are you starting to see what I'm talking about? Are you starting to go down the rabbit hole maybe? If you are, then leave something in the comment section below, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this. So the doorway should start to be opening in your mind, okay? You're starting to think, what does this all mean, man? What is Dice even fucking talking about, okay? If you keep going down this, the doorway's going to get opened, and you're going to start to question fucking everything, all right? It's going to be scary, I know. But, you know, with the right guidance, with the right mentality, I know that you'll be able to get through this, and you'll come out on the other side a completely changed man. So the second point that I want to get to, number 2, is you don't like risk, okay? You don't like and you rarely take risk unless forced upon by rank. So if you do take a big leap of faith, or a big leap of faith, or some sort of big directional change, you wait until you've done enough thinking and calculating until you believe that you are ready. After some deep thought, the risk is now being mitigated and thought through and processed enough and calculated for you to actually take action upon that. You may be pessimistic and cautious at first, but you only become an optimist when you actually have a solid plan of action. So there's a saying that I really love by R.S.D. Tyler from one of his older videos. He says, a pessimist becomes an optimist when he has a plan. A pessimist becomes an optimist when he has a plan. Okay, that's still the case for me. Nothing really wrong with that, but there is a little bit of a pitfall that we're talking about here. So you tend to wait for the right answers before taking action, especially when it comes to doing inner work, purpose, life direction work, and making any sort of big decision. However, you might find yourself waiting a very long time, okay? There's that construction work. And not do anything that is too drastic outside of the routines that you've actually created upon yourself. So additionally, as I mentioned earlier, you may be stuck in your head most of the time. And you don't know how to consciously put aside time to address what your long-term plans and what your long-term goals are. That is to discover what your purpose is, or at least build out some sort of like long-term plan or long-term ideas on what makes you happy and what the future holds for you. Also overwhelmed with this thinking, and due to a high stress, like high responsibility job, your personality traits, other mental maps, and other commitments that may or may not be true. And if you do manage to put time aside to create a plan in order to find your purpose, you find it very, very hard to like switch off, okay? Switch off that thinking mind, you know? You can probably sense in like these videos that I'm pretty pumped up about it, and I'm thinking and calculating what's coming up next. You know, I'm excited to do it, but then at the same time, like, I'm also like, you know, thinking forward planning all the time, okay? So what I'm getting at is it takes you some time to like switch off that overthinking, overcalculating brain and actually start to activate inspirational and creative thoughts about your life and its direction. So in your perspective, it is a necessary step to reduce the perceived risk in order to make a decision to change course. And you wouldn't be entirely wrong, okay? Wouldn't you want a fucking plan before you start doing some sort of drastic change, okay? It makes some sense, especially more so if you're an aircraft maintenance engineer, or you're a serious engineer, or like any sort of these professions that you're like constantly using your brain a lot. It would make sense to have a plan, would it not? But what I'm getting at is, like, in the endless quest for searching for answers and understanding, you're kind of dabbling and you're doing nothing, okay? And nothing's really changing. Your inner work is not really changing. You're too fearful of that change. So you're acquiring experience, you're acquiring knowledge, but you're not acquiring experience, skills, and wisdom. So the best way that I personally would look at this, okay, and I want to do a video on this eventually, is you want to look at it as like learn the amount of knowledge and planning and skill set to about 70%, and then just run with it, and then just go with it, okay? More often than not, because engineers, the way we work in our mind is like, because we are quite humble and we quite tend to want to know like every node in the flow chart before we actually go about our business, we tend to stifle us in from action taking. So get to a stage where you're probably around 70% and then just run with it. You'll pick it up as you go, okay? You know, this is going to be different. Like, this is going to, obviously this is where what I'm trying to explain, the changes between how you go about your business at work and how you go about your business on your inner work, okay? So obviously you wouldn't be like, yeah, let's just like tighten up this bolt on the wing of the aircraft 70% and it'll do. No, like obviously do what is necessary in your work profile and work systems, but in your personal development, you need to look at this slightly in a different way. Okay, so the analogy, since we're on that aircraft analogy, like, you know, the way you look at this from a perspective of inner work is get the tools, get the knowledge, get the carbon fiber, get the aluminium, get the 6061 aluminium, all the things that you need, and then jump off the cliff and then start building the aircraft on the way down. Okay, I know it's a bit out there, but that's the way you kind of need to look at it when you're doing self-development. Obviously you wouldn't do this in real life, okay? that would be absolutely retarded. Anyway, I'm hoping you can see the differences that I'm talking about here. So you don't like risk. Also, here's another point, is if you do put time aside, more often than not, when you do put time aside, you don't create what you believe is an adequate plan to be able to go after your purpose and sort of like fully see what the future holds. Or worse, you prioritize mindless leisure, okay, leisure tasks, and a holiday that you do absolutely nothing. And you prioritize that over inner work. And what happens? The time just passes, okay? And then with nothing that really happened, and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna sit here and have a beer and do nothing, and maybe something comes to my mind with no clear plan, no outcome. After that's done and the time goes, you're like, meh, time to go back to work. Right at the very point, with if you'd done a little bit of inner work, maybe read this book instead of just sitting there, you're about to have a breakthrough. You know, you're about to have these deeper realizations that were maybe a little bit scary, but it got you on the right path, you know, which kind of leads me to my next point, okay? Are you getting something out of this video? If you're getting something out of this video, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel out a great deal. All right, number 3, You prioritize work over yourself. Kind of already touched this already, but let's go through some of my notes here that I've got on this. So I would assume that you're you're generally a very empathetic person, okay? You want to help others and you have an extreme amount of value to give to the world, to give to society, to give to your workmates, and to be able to get some sort of reciprocation for that is a bonus, okay? Especially being in the military. The military needs people like you, okay? But maybe you're in a job role that has a lower frequency of talking to people and talking to other people. So I'm talking about work that's like in designing, engineering, repairing, maintenance, like research, some sort of like product creation, and work that is not like directly working with people. So throughout your day, if you calculated the amount of time that you're actually stuck in your head working on stuff versus the time that you're actually talking to people, it's probably 80% stuck in your head and 20% talking to people, or less, okay? So I'm not saying that these professions are bad. These society, the military, and like the world needs people like you. It's people like you that built the fucking world, man. It's people like this that has this nerdy brain that built the world, okay? Bridges, skyscrapers, buildings, roads, you know, like I'm looking at some of the engineering that's going into the new Star Casino or whatever that's going in Brisbane CBD area, and some of the amazing engineering and men and women and the thought processes going into that project, you know. It's insane, it's crazy, you know. So the world needs that, okay? But let's sort of go on a bit of a tangent. I got a bit excited there. But however, it is common in this work that men can start to think that their self-worth and value as a man is entirely based on their work output, okay? You may not realize that your work and yourself are two separate entities. That is to identify yourself by the profession and what you do. This kind of leads me back to my first point, that you kind of get stuck in that do mode, and the cycle just tends to continue. Again, you don't spend enough time on yourself, being with yourself, asking yourself the right questions, being okay with a period of uncertainty and mental chaos in order to get yourself onto a better long-term path. You may also probably you also subconsciously or consciously you realize that it might be that you're identifying yourself with your work too much, and you must think that work must be my purpose, okay? A lot of the time it is, but it's not always, okay? This could be like a totally separate video in itself, but like I'm trying to keep it. I've already gone on enough tangents. We'll get to it. We'll move to that. Anyway, if you're getting something out of this video, I would love it if you hit the like button and subscribe button. And you know, if you want to see that video that I briefly just touched on, like work versus purpose and life beyond the military, and like how there's a difference between like work, purpose, and like how they're together, but they're also separate, and like diving into that, then leave it in the comment section below. I'd love to be able to do that video for you. Anyway, moving on. Number 4, you have predominantly a pessimistic mindset, okay? I get it. I've got a pessimistic mindset as well. It's not necessarily a bad thing, as we're going to discuss. You may have the what can go wrong, will go wrong mentality. And so like, it's not your fault. You've been trained like this to be emotionally and monetarily rewarded probably from a very young age. Probably not monetarily, although your parents might have given you some pocket money, but you've been conditioned over the years, and certainly in your military career, to be rewarded for problem-solving ability, okay? So, and you're, over a long period of time, you're looking to seek out failure points in everything that you do. And also to talk and think logically due to time constraints and the military culture, okay? So the military and a lot of like, you know, construction workers and engineers and that sort of stuff, they're really like, you know, there's times where you talk to other people, but it's not really about like inner work and purpose. It's about like, bro, how are we going to do this? How are we going to put the nail in the fucking wall at the right time? What sort of, I'm just pulling shit out of my ass now, you know, oh fuck, what thread pitch has this got to be? Okay, what spring do we need to put in here? What hardness of this plastic? Is it UV resistant? What sort of RA finish is on here? What sort of finish would be scratch resistant? What sort of stainless steel do we require in this? Okay, so we're probably going to need some 304 stainless. Is going to get light rust if we leave it out, but it's also cost effective. So you're thinking. I'm really enjoying this video. You're getting something out of this video? I hope you are. Going on a bit of a tangent there, but you know what I mean, like a pessimistic mindset, okay? Because like if anything goes wrong with this, the product's not going to sell or it's not going to be effective for its system, okay? Where's the failure point? How can this be better? This must be executed properly or it will fail. So here's another example, okay? Well, maybe that was enough example. I was going to put this thing in about military, not going to worry about that. The point I'm getting at is there's nothing wrong with this mentality, okay? There's nothing wrong with this mentality at work. But then you go and apply this same mentality to your purpose, spirituality, your love life, your dating life, and what do you think happens? What do you think happens? All you fucking see is problems. I can't do this until I get this done. I can't find my purpose until I do this. I don't even want to look for my purpose because I got to sort this shit out. You got all this gray area going on in your brain. And one thing you got to realize is that finding your purpose requires a wider perspective on exactly who you are at your core, what your situation is, and not an elimination, but an integration of the like pessimistic attitude that you've cultivated, and being able to use the good parts and get rid of the bad parts. All right. So let's move on. Number 5, you don't have the mental tools. And you're putting off asking yourself the right questions, okay? So if you've come this far in the video, it's pretty clear that you only like science-based proven questions and logic. Oh, don't we love logic? So meditation and this wooey shit seems like some whack religion to you, almost silly and ridiculous, okay? So I get it. It was certainly the case for me when I first started. Okay, I'm like, who's Eckhart Tolle? With the bell out and presence. Like, what the fuck is this? You know, I get that. I understand that. But another thing is you may not have seen the value of mindfulness and inner work. And meditation is a really good tool to be able to get you started in, to be able to slow down your mind when necessary, to be able to like do this inner work. So how does sitting there and doing absolutely nothing get you any results? So this could be a whole separate video in itself, but in short, it calms the mind, it reduces escapism mentality, victim mentality, and it's a valuable tool to release trauma and increase clarity. So dig a little bit deeper into successful people's lives, and you're going to see a pattern develop where they may not all do meditation, but a lot do, or they, at the very least, they have some sort of flow state activity to be able to focus their mind on something that is not completely work related, that brings them joy and clarity and presence. Okay, they may not be able to describe it, but it's something that they do that makes them incredibly more successful and incredibly more focused. One of the biggest issues in our society right now is Snapchat and fucking TikTok is like changing the way our brains work. We're cyborgs now. I'd love to do a video on that, another topic. Anyway, so the point I'm getting at is there's so many different types of meditation. So how do you find one that suits you? Okay, how do you find, sorry about the construction noise. How do you find one that's like good for you without learning all this other hippy dippy shit with tarot cards, stroke and rocks, and like stuff that's just like, I learnt this thing called ASMR. I'm like, what is going on with the world? Essentially, you know, if you're a logical person, you made this far in the video, you want to be looking into breathing exercises, meditation, presence work, and maybe learn for some other great teachers. I'm not the best teacher for this, but I've certainly learned some things that have definitely helped me with this, and sort of like got me down on the path in the right direction. So another big reason is you have identified yourself. Oh, here we go. This is getting deep. All right. Another big reason is you have identified yourself as your thoughts. Okay. Big problem with engineers. And thus you are fully run by your thoughts. Through learning specific mental tools, you will come to realize that you are not your thoughts. Okay. So you've got, just as a bit of an idea, let's say that's your thoughts. This is where you've been working all your life. And then through awakening, you realize, wait up, there's a guy sitting on top of this rock, and he's here, and he's observing, he's watching, and he's not judging. That's you, not this, okay? That learnt, and if you want to learn more about this sort of stuff, okay, highly recommend A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle and The Power Now by Eckhart Tolle. Okay, that'll spark you down that direction of personal development and growth. Okay, love to do some videos and extract some information out of that without, obviously I'll put some markers in there, because as with every book, there's shit in there that is not applicable to you, that is like beyond what you need to know. But there's, you're skipping through. You're like a person panning for gold, man. Panning for gold. There's a lot. Oh, there's a deer shit in there. Oh, okay. We'll chuck out the deer shit, but there's a piece of gold there. That's actually good. That's what you're doing when you're reading books, or you should be doing it reading books. Never take it on face value. Use that nerd brain of yours to filter through the content that is good for you. Just like you probably, if you've got this far in the video, you're like, what the fuck is Dice talking about? It may not make sense right now. It may not even make sense to you, but if you've made it this far, then maybe you're picking up what I'm putting down. Anyway, I don't care. I just like doing these videos. Yeah, let's move on. You have become too comfortable in putting off this work. Let's be honest, okay? Asking yourself the right questions for your long-term growth isn't really a fun thing to do, okay? It hurts the ego, and to find out that you've been doing things the wrong for the most part of your life, probably since you were very small. And it becomes quite painful, And like most people would rather live in like a lull of like a little bit of pain instead of having a sharp, acute bit of pain for a period of time, going through a period of uncertainty, uproot yourself out of the ground and put you in a place where there's more light, like, because people behave like plants when you really start to think about it. And that's the way most people are, okay? So don't feel bad about yourself. That's just the way that we have been conditioned, okay? But two great questions, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, is my life going in the direction that I want it to, or am I rationalizing my behaviors just to cope with life? The next question I got is, what would I be doing if I knew that I was going to die soon from a terminal illness? Deep questions, I know. Very tough questions. But these questions will hopefully kickstart you down the path of self-discovery and eventually lead you to your purpose and being more fulfilled. So let's do some recapping, shall we? So number one, get out of your head more often and always look to see the bigger picture in what you're doing. You need to have a macro and a micro perspective at the same time. So number two, you need to take a bit more of a calculated risk now and then, okay? You don't wait around for all the answers. Time's going to pass you by. You're going to die soon. Memento mori. Remember that you will die, okay? Number three, work and purpose can often be the same, but in other situations they can be sort of like lightly integrated. And it's hard for you to decipher the difference between the two. But don't base your self-worth as a man on how well you perform in your work. Self-worth and work are closely related, but they are separate entities. Number four, don't apply the same pessimistic mindset in your work to your overall life. Number five, consider learning how to meditate or finding some sort of mindfulness flow state activity to start to ask yourself the right questions. And then work out, is this actually what I like doing? Is this actually for me? What the fuck am I doing with my life? This shit is very scary, I know, but it's necessary if you're looking to get the most out of your life, and if you want to stop this cycle of pain that you might be in. So the goal isn't to destroy this way of thinking, okay? The idea is you want to add a perspective and an outside third person macro perspective to the things that you do day to day. So watching your thought patterns and then adding new ones as they come up. Like you want to integrate your current ways of thinking and then expand upon them, and ask yourself the right questions, and take a break, take some time to think, perhaps in solitude or maybe with a mentor, in order to find what you really want, like out of your long term, out of your life. What exactly makes you happy? You're the CEO of your life. Only you know what makes you happy. But having a mentor to be able to help you, guide you down this path, it certainly goes a long way. So let me help you with this. After watching this video, you may realize that you really need some help with this. You might need some help finding your purpose, getting rid of that mental sort of gray area. You're having some sort of identity issues. You don't know what maybe you're transitioning out of the military, okay? Maybe you're transitioning out of the military and you're having a really hard time working out what the future holds, what your purpose is, what your identity is. You know, the military gave you a code to live by. The military gave you a code to live by, and now that you're transitioning out, you know, it's up to you now, man. It's up to you now to make your own code, to make your own rules. So let me help you with this. Let me be honest with you, okay? I know I'm still learning how to project myself into the camera and being able to put my message across and to be able to, I guess, pitch my idea and being able to help you. So, you know, it's going to take a little bit of time. This is not for the faint-hearted, okay? My program is not for the faint-hearted. This is going to be one of the most emotionally traumatic things that you're going to go through, but I know with my guidance, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, you're going to come out the other side with a completely different perspective on life, a sense of confidence and clarity that you didn't know existed, okay? Like, holy fuck, okay? You'll have a similar realization that I had back in the day. So, you know, if you're able to tolerate a sharp bit of pain and you're serious about this, and like, you know that this isn't going to be an easy process, as you're not going to be able to knock this over in a week. It's going to take at least a couple of months to be able to work this out. Then send me a DM on Instagram and you and I can actually like see if we're a good fit to work with each other. If we are actually a good fit to work with each other, and it seems like that we are seeing eye to eye, then I can enroll you into my mentorship and the program. But if you're not at this stage where you're like ready to go down this rabbit hole, but you did get something out of this video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because it just helps with growing the channel, and also it'll give you an opportunity to be able to see more of these videos as I release them. So yeah, with that being said, thanks so much for watching. Dice out.